I'm going to call the meeting to order, the regular meeting of the Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board, Tuesday, December 13th. Please stand for a moment of silence. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now the roll call, please.
Boyer,
Here.
Cosden,
Here.
Donaldson, present. Fisher, still here. Jackson, here. Lucas Ross, McMillan, here. Traeger, here. Winstead, here. Zivkovic.
Here.
Thank you. Next is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next is approval of the agenda. You have a,
Oh, Mr. Bustry.
Mr. Bustry.
Madam Chairwoman, I think at last meeting, Mr. Zivkovic brought up and the board tasked me with amending the superintendent's employment contract. He wants to, I think he would have the opportunity to evaluate the superintendent or to promulgate criteria for that evaluation. The present contract specifies that the evaluation will be done by June, and it has been done. So just to make sure that it's a very simple amendment, and I have the amendment and attached to the contract, I'd like that to be added for consideration by the board. Sorry for the late date, but I believe that's what the last board asked that I do.
To item 11D, is that right? The agenda item 11D, superintendent's evaluation tool?
This is actually, we can put it there, but it's
Okay,
a little bit different.
okay.
I make a motion to add Mr. Bustry's contract.
I'll second
change.
it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
I also have, in our last meeting, we had a parent come up and ask us about the FHSA insurance for our athletes. We have a long meeting today. Are we? Perfect, okay.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual with a maximum of 45 minutes without a motion and a second and a vote here. So I will go ahead and open up public input.
Good morning, Cape Coral Charter School Authority. My name is Brandon Pearson, and I'm currently a senior at Oasis High School. I've had the distinct pleasure of being part of the Cape Coral Charter School system since 2nd grade when I started at Krista McAuliffe Elementary. I'm currently ranked number 1 in my senior class and have worn Oasis with pride as I have participated in JRHC, Key Club, Model United Nations, National Honor Society, and the Cape Coral Junior Leadership Program. I was even recently named the first ever Legion of Valor Bronze Cross recipient in Lee County history for junior ROTC. Personally, during my time in the system, I've seen the system grow and change in many ways. Since 6th grade alone, I have had the pleasure of working with 5 different principals and 3 different superintendents, each with their own unique direction and culture for the system. However, the culture that I've seen develop this past year and a half at Oasis High School, in my opinion, is destructive, driving away many great teachers, students, and parents. Notably, this past year, nearly every ACE teacher left our school, including many that had near perfect exam scores year after year. Many of these teachers appeared before the City Council this past July, concerned that the school did not respect teachers or the issues that they brought forth. Many students and parents had similar concerns and appeared in front of the governing board last May and June. I personally did not see their concerns as warranted at the time, until weeks ago, when I tried addressing a domestic violence injunction enforcement issue with the school. I was essentially dismissed by the school administrators and was told that if I pursued this issue beyond the school level, I would be punished for doing so. It is sad to see that the direction Oasis High School and the charter school system have taken. To think the system once had people like Dr. Bush, Dr. Pruitt, and Mr. Hook, but is now in its current predicament. The leadership of the system is ultimately not delivering to teachers, parents, and most importantly, students. That is why this coming semester, my mother is looking to pull me from the system that I grew up in and leave behind my multitude of outstanding accomplishments. However, today, I beg the governing board to put politics aside for a moment and put the interest of students first by launching an investigation into the leadership of Oasis High School and the system as a whole. If this body can do what is best for the students, and I mind you, the students, then just maybe I'll be able to graduate from the system that I grew up in. With the remaining time I have, I would like to say that I did speak before the City of Cape Coral Council meeting last evening. After this, I did receive great support from my fellow students, many of which are scared to speak up about their concerns because of the intimidation and bullying that the administration has done to squash student voice. Ultimately, if you do not fit their model or their agenda, the administration treats you as if you're a criminal and an outcast. But that should never be the case. So with this in mind, I urge this body to start the investigation that teachers, parents, and most importantly, students deserve. Thank you.
Good morning, governing board members. My name is Shay Pearson, and I come here to this meeting as a community member, as an educator, but most importantly, as a mother. I have two sons that attend Oasis High School. I'm sure many of you are aware of our unique family situation. Most of you became aware of it on August 26, 2013, when my husband, Kenneth Pearson, was arrested at the Oasis High School campus. I did not come before the board at that time when I was relieved of my duties as a teacher. I did not come to the board in August of 2015 when this no trespass was lifted against Mr. Pearson by Mr. Stevenson and what I feel was very little investigation. I didn't even come to the board in May of 2015 when there was an incident with my ex-husband and my son at a football game. But I come here today because I have grave concerns. While I respect my family's situation puts the school in somewhat of a predicament, it exists and needs to be dealt with. Despite all, there is a domestic violence injunction between Mr. Kenneth Pearson and Mr. Brandon Pearson. Despite whether Oasis High School is listed on there, it states Mr. Pearson may not be within 500 feet of Brandon Pearson or 100 feet during football games and practices. On December 1st, Mr. Pearson was at school for a meeting for my other son, and like I said, I know this puts the school in a predicament, but I think there were other ways it could have been handled because Brandon entered the office and was 20 feet away from Mr. Pearson in direct violation of what was happening. I urge the governing board just to look into this a little more so we could figure out a way to handle this situation where it does not occur again. My greatest concern today, though, to the governing board is Mr. Eric Berner. I've heard all the rumors in the past and found them to be unthinkable. The allegations students and parents came to me about, I thought they must have the wrong man. Can't be him. He was a person that took my son in freshman year and led him to JRTC. That helped mold my son into the person he is today. However, this all changed on December 2nd, in which Mr. Berner had a closed-door meeting with my son. I felt that the way he was disciplined and the fact that Mr. Berner did not let him call me, even though he requested to call me on 2 separate occasions, I felt that his disciplinary crosses the line. I'm concerned about the fact that he doesn't have an educator certificate or a leadership endorsement. And maybe his military excuses that, but I think that the lack of experience in the classroom, even though he had led JRTC, affects some of those things. Please understand, I'm not attacking Mr. Berner's character. I'm addressing his disciplinary methods, which I feel include intimidation and bullying. In addition, I believe as a parent that I should be included in any disciplinary regarding my student. I'm asking that the board take a stand here and at least investigate these allegations, not only by my family, but by multiple families in the system. I believe that this body is the correct place.
Thank you.
Good morning, Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board. My name is Vanessa Metzger. I am a parent of 2 children currently in the Cape Coral Charter system. I have personally worked with 3 different superintendents since my children started in the system and am disappointed with the current leadership. Mr. Stevenson, in my opinion, has fostered an environment where parent concerns are dismissed and student safety is not considered. Stevenson has allowed a man that has previously brought 2 guns on a school campus to return to the schools. Mr. Pearson was arrested 3 years ago on school campus for 2 counts of possession of arms on school campus. Dr. Angela Pruitt, the superintendent at the time, issued a no trespass order for Mr. Kenneth Pearson, and this was enforced for nearly 2 years. However, without any changes in circumstances, the new superintendent dropped the no trespass order without consulting any of the parties impacted. Mr. Pearson has personally threatened myself and my children in the past, and it is a shame. Mr. Nelson would disregard their safety. Mr. Stevenson has set a precedent that says it's okay to bring guns onto school campus and that it's okay to threaten teachers, parents, and worst of all, our students. As superintendent of the system, he has a responsibility to student safety, a responsibility he has disregarded. That is why I'm asking the Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board to remove Mr. Stevenson from his position as superintendent. The charter school system has never had controversies like this prior to Mr. Stevenson, and I know if he is removed from his position, the controversies will cease to exist. On a final note, I ask the city, or the governing board, to listen to a recording sent earlier today. This recording is of Mr. Pearson threatening to bring more guns on school campus, and when brought to the attention of school administrators, it was dismissed.
Penny, didn't you bring guns on a school campus that she worked at?
I was never committed for it. I was never, there's nothing. It was thrown out.
But it still happened, did it not?
That's why I said you are so confused, child. You have no idea. But Blake needs his phone to make a phone call to someone, so we gotta go.
Oh, alright, well, I guess that never happened. You bring a gun on the school campus and...
It can happen 100 more times. There's nothing illegal about it.
How can it happen 100 more times, Kenny?
Okay? I can pull into school with a gun, okay, in my car right now if I wanted to, and there's nothing the school can do about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Hector Carrasco. I'm a junior at Oasis High School. I come with a lack of words because Brendan Pearson didn't prepare anything for me to say. But I would like to say from my own heart is that I am utterly confused, and I'm like, my mind is spinning and my heart is pounding and my hands are shaking because as each and every person come up here before me, Brendan Pearson's mouth was like this, mouthing everything that they were about to say. And I'm confused on why we're allowing this. The pinpoint of everything that's happening is because of Brandon Pearson. The hurricane, the eye of the storm, he's right there. Everything that has happened today and yesterday evening is because of Brandon Pearson. He's feeding this fire, he's feeding the flame. And I'm just confused on why why we're listening to it. We know the facts are there. His father, that's a fact. His father brought a school on campus. That's a fact. He was banned from coming to the school. Mr. Nelson pushed that up. You would think, at least in my mind, it's just what family is. Like, you would assume that Brandon would want to be with his father again. And his family, his issues, that's okay. That's their fault. Not their fault. That's their issue. It's for them to know. But what I'm like, their family issues shouldn't affect my education. I'm in 11th grade. I should be in school right now, but I'm fearing that my school is crumbling down because of someone's family issue. Someone's family issue is interfering with my education. I am missing my Global Perspectives class right now. My favorite class, and I'm missing. And I told my teacher I have to go because I have to defend the one thing that I love. I come to school every single day. It's what I have to do. And I'm confused on why this is all happening, because Mr. Stevenson and Ms. Treese and the board, I don't really know you guys, but I'm sure every day I come to school and it's great. So you guys are doing something right. And I've met Dr. Bush, great guy, shook his hand. That was back when I was in middle school, and he did great too. And everything, the wheels keep on turning. The wheels haven't stopped. The watch isn't broken. It's still ticking. School's still happening. I'm still learning. But I am confused is when the teachers left. They left because they didn't like the new administration. They're allowed to do that. That's fine. And that's what they did. They used their own right. And I'm happy with my teachers now. The old ones left, the new ones came in. People stop teaching. New ones come in. That's how life works. And I want to say before you guys is that, like, I don't know why we have a spotlight on this tiny, minute detail. Colonel Berner, he is a very unique man. He does things different from other people. Why? Because he was in the military. And he taught JRTC for over a decade.
You can have 20 more seconds.
20 more seconds. Thank you. And I'm just saying that Colonel Berner, he disciplines people the way you should be disciplined. No more kids making out in the pep rally. They said that he inflicted on their rights. No, you're not allowed to do that. You smoke, you drink alcohol to prom. You're not allowed to do that. He simply said, don't do that, or you will be suspended, or you will be kicked out of Oasis. That's just a fact. That's just something that happens. Like, I don't know why you try to bypass the rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Prince, I'm your public input. I've been an advocate for the charter schools for a very long time. Ms. Donaldson, you know me. It's broken. That's all I gotta say. We've got children missing school. To be here to speak to you guys when he should be learning the facts of life and how to get ahead in the world. Confusion, yes. I saw it last night. I didn't speak. I came to you because you guys, you have the ability to make this go away and not air it in public. Last night was a fiasco. It was political, and I'm ashamed of it. I really am. I'm ashamed of what's happened, especially to our charter school system. But we can fix it. We work together. We move forward. That's all we have to do, work together. Work with the city. Mr. Stevenson, I have admired you for a long time, since I met you. And I know somewhere you know how to make this happen. Get back on track with our mayor. Get back on track for their children. To put the politics aside, it's our children. It's our children. It's our future for the city. Okay? And you can fix it. But do it privately. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Tim Block. We have 3 children in the school. We've been advocates of the school system for probably close to 15 years. That's because we were familiar with Terry Stewart when he brought the idea and the concept over from the East Coast, Pembroke Pines, and what a phenomenal system they had over there and wanted to implement it. So before it was even built, we were on board with it, and we have been. We have 2 children, like I said, 3 children, been in the system for 11 years themselves. The lady that spoke before me kind of summed everything up, and I agree wholeheartedly. I had a very wise uncle I worked for and had a lot of sage advice, and he'd give me little sayings and proverbs and things like that, and a lot of those popped up last night. It was kind of interesting going through my mind. And when it's all said and done, the one that sticks with me the most that I had on my wall at one point was a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And it said, I do the best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing so until the end. If the end brings me out wrong, or end brings me out all right, what is said against me won't amount to anything. But if the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference. So Mr. Stevenson, carry on. Ms. Therese, carry on. All right, board, you know what to do. It was obvious last night the kids had it figured out, or I should say our young adults or students had it figured out. We're on the right path. We just need to keep going down that path and doing the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you all know, I'm Victoria Bateman, the finance director. I couldn't be here last night because I was having a colonoscopy. All right? But I'd have to say that was a lot easier than watching last night's meeting. I'm here as the finance director. I will speak later about the purpose of last night was to talk about the audit findings. It was not about my spouse, my wife, having to come in here and defend her position herself. I don't know why last week in the papers I had to read about this was all turned into my wife being fired. It's not. I could stand here before you, but I'm not going to because I work for the city. And I could show you emails, I could show you issues about the charter school. And it won't surprise you, that's okay. It's all gonna come out, it's not about Nelson, it's about, there's just issues with the process. But one thing you need to understand is there's a charter for you, and there's bylaws for you. The charter says, I as the finance director will invest your funds, and I do a damn good job. But I've been held back from that job, and I can show you emails, I have them with me, where I've been told by the charter school not to move funds to invest to make more money for you. Look at your bylaws. It says the superintendent will decide on what's invested and where. And I'll be happy to share my emails with you where I've said, no, you need to move $3 million more out there. Keep in mind that any money we invest, my staff is here that does it. We can get it back by the end of the same day. You don't want to make interest on $3 million for money you use a couple of years from now? We'll talk about that later. I'm just here to say, this is about not Nelson or Mrs. Treese, and I could go on about certain people, but I won't. It's about that there are issues, you need to accept those issues and do something about it. When at the audit committee, where the issues were raised by the external auditor, I thought it was a good discussion about there's things that need to happen. But then all of a sudden it's turned into, my wife's fired. So I'm just going to leave it at that, is that last night was supposed to be about not people, about whether it was one of 3 people that were discussed. I can tell you I have a recording of the discussion with Mr. Nelson that was held, and I am upset that Mrs. Treese would not bother to speak to her. But I'm here to say that there's issues that can easily be resolved if people were more open about there's problems. And if any of you are interested in seeing those problems, I have them. But I'm going to do it in the right process. Mr. Nelson knows what these issues are. We've been involved in meetings about these. So why could we not keep it to that instead of it being about whether I can invest money properly, read about it in the papers, or hear my name last night? I don't get it. I've served this school very well. So I don't get it. Thanks.
Good morning. Marnie Sawicki, Mayor of Cape Coral. I am here in that capacity, and I'm also here as a mother of a student that goes to Oasis High School and has grown up in the system. We've loved the system. We've given our blood, sweat, and tears, as Ms. Jackson would know, as she did as well. I'm confused as to why it has gotten to this point. As a member of the audit committee, I simply asked questions back in July. That was it. Why turnover? The information I was receiving, it doesn't match. Lee County Schools will tell you that the 29% isn't accurate as well. So that's being quoted in the paper. So this was really just about asking about the processes, asking about what took place, because what the information I was getting was not accurate. The bigger question here is about the school system itself. It's like growing out of it's like growing and growing out of your pair of shoes and needing a new one. This is about processes. This isn't about people as far as you, me, superintendent, principal. It's about putting checks and balances in place. And by asking questions, I have no idea why that would be threatening. And what transpired after that, I'm asking for you to please address, because I have written, and the only thing I've gotten back was from Mr. Zukovic that said, any problems with the audit? And what I would like to know is, were you aware that that the superintendent went to the media? Did he come to you first? Do you condone that? If you condone that, and I will say, I think you do, because as evidenced by members of your board showing up in support for him, I find that to be, I sit and I think about those kids, and if you think it's one kid, shame on you. This is not Brandon Pearson. This isn't even about him. I sat on Sunday with 8 parents, 8 families of just that would show up, many, many other emails and phone calls. And I will tell you, the fact that I was literally blindsided by the superintendent going to the media, taking it to social media, scaring those teachers and those parents to come like they did last night, thinking that their school was going to be closed. Do you even know that the teachers opened up their classrooms yesterday, stating that the school, they need to show up and support because their school is going to be closed? They sent out a memo on, I have it, a memo on Schoology to, the teacher did to all of the other teachers, telling them to be here yesterday to fight for what's right. What am I doing? I am fighting for what's right. This is about our students. You've given a vote of confidence to the superintendent. I would have been much more, I would have felt better with you supporting the students and the parents and the teachers.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oriana Trosh. I'm here on behalf of 90% of the students at Oasis that are extremely satisfied and happy with what we have going on at the moment. Every administrator and teacher at our school loves, and you can feel the love just walking into our school, that they care for us and they love us and they want us to succeed in life. And I think that 10% out of 100 doesn't make sense to stir up a gigantic problem that could bring down or corrupt our board. Our superintendent is a marvelous man. He really is. He has the best interest at heart for us, I believe. And I've had nothing but good experiences. My parents are super satisfied with our system. And I believe that probably a mental problem for one man and one family should not affect the way it is affecting our school system, how it is these days. The 10% at our school that I believe has problems with authority is the one that is more open with speaking, of course, because they have a problem and they want to fight for it. But the only problem there is that they don't know how to respond to authority. Colonel Berner is a magnificent man. I speak on my behalf and on behalf of everyone I've known at Oasis. He has no problem telling you what you did wrong, but he also knows the limits. He has limits. He has those boundaries because he knows that we're children. He's a marvelous man. Ms. Therese, again, she has done nothing but good for our school on behalf of our students. Me personally and everyone I've talked to, we're just worried about graduation. We want to get there. We don't want these problems that could be avoided easily with just a simple conversation. Last night was kind of a blur because towards the end, it got a little unprofessional, and I was kind of taken aback because I was just thinking, should this person in this position be speaking this way in front of all these students that need that voice? I was confused. I was taken aback on how adults act this way still, which I don't think should happen. But again, I speak on behalf of 90% of our school when I tell you that we are extremely satisfied and we are extremely in love with our school system, and we don't want anything bad to happen. Change is inevitable, and we just have to adjust to the change. The teachers that are there now are adjusting to the change, and they tell me they love it. Again, the ones who aren't good with change, they will leave. Process of elimination, we need that. The ones here are here to serve us, and I think that's what's most important, is our student body. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jen Hope Bellis. I'm on the foundation, and I also have 3 children in the school system at the elementary and middle school. I did come last night, I came this morning, I'm obviously vested in our school. For me, I agree with a lot of what is said here, but last night just really was drama, unfortunately. And what I want to know or ask you is, how are we moving forward? Because this is not going to get us anywhere. And my bigger concern is that we are in a small school, and the rumor mills are like, and already yesterday I had Facebook things, and I love Facebook for my family to see my kids' cute pictures. I don't like Facebook for arguing. But there were issues already yesterday of somebody, the city's going to run our school, and I just am concerned that between last night's meeting and obviously the lack of attendance on today's meeting, that people heard something yesterday and we're not going to get the resolution or the overview or the communication that says This is what we want. We as a governing board want this. We want transparency. We want to work better with the city. We want you guys to work better with us. Whatever that is, I feel like we've lost what that is. I really don't know at this point. Is it turnover administration? Is that what the governing board wants? Do they want to look into policies and procedures? I don't know. But last night there were even emails on the city's going to take our school. We're a city-run charter school, people. We already are run by the city. Now, do we work well together? I don't know. I'm not on the governing board. I'm not on city council. I only know what I know. So my request is that there is some sort of communication at some point to stop some of the madness, because there is other things going on. And Nelson, I work well with him. I like him. I love Treese. I love Berner. So this is not personal. It's just that I see how wildfires happen, and I would just hope that somewhere along the way we can get something out there, because parents are obviously passionate. That's what we saw yesterday, passion from students and parents, and not everyone's happy, and we got that obviously from the comments. But with passion, the talking happens, and I just would hope that somewhere along the way you guys can come on a consensus of what the goal is and what 2017 is going to bring, and that what you guys are trying to achieve. That's my only request.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak for public comment? Okay. Thank you very much. I don't see any lights on. Does anybody have any? Oh, there you go. Okay, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Cosden. Ms. Bateman, are you able to approach for a moment? Just waiting.
You too?
Chocolate candy.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bateman. I'm going to formally request if you could produce those emails to us, and anything else you believe is relevant. Obviously, if there are any issues, we do want to be aware of anything, and we want to make sure and be transparent to the public. So if you could do that in whatever.
That's the consensus of the board. And I will go through my city manager first. But yes, I have the emails that I'm speaking of, and I will be glad to share them as long as my city manager says it's okay and the consensus of this board.
And the second.
But I want you to understand, I'm not interested in airing dirty laundry. I'm interested in just sitting with the right people and making sure that we have the right internal controls in place and that this school system is successful.
And so am I. I believe in transparency, and I want anything, and I'm sure the fellow board members would probably agree that we want to see anything, no matter what.
Do we agree that we want to see those emails, everybody? Yes. Consensus? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Fisher.
The second question I have for you, have you reached out to any of the board members directly about any of your concerns before?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when that was?
Yes, I have the emails showing when I have reached out to a board member. Once again, I'm going to have to go through my city manager because I'm not here to destroy anybody on the board.
No.
But yes, I have reached out, and I have it in writing of where I've reached out about concerns. Most of my concerns have been around your internal funds, and that's what the audit. I was the one who asked for that audit because I didn't, as a finance person, money person, whether it's for the school or for the city, I still to this day don't understand how you could spend $42,000 on flowers, gift cards, food for employees. It's just not my nature. Now, my other half disagrees with me, if you want to know. She says that's what teachers do, maybe not to the tune of that kind of money, but you all work as teachers, you work in a different environment than I do. That this is like the holiday Christmas party, $1,300 of the internal funds was used on that. Well, I would not be standing here today as your finance director if I used $1 of the city money on a Christmas party. So yes, I've reached out to the board with that. I've reached out to our city auditor. I've reached out to Nelson personally, and I've shared this. I've shared it with Bill Busdry. Okay. So, but the appropriate action was taken in that the auditor did the internal control audit.
Well, as I would ask anyone in the audience, if there is anything that you believe is relevant and factual, please bring that forward as well to the board. We want to be as transparent as we can, so, and I believe that is what our job is. And thank you.
Ms. Bateman, real quick. I think I was the board member that you brought that to, and I want to say thank you because I believe that's what initiated the internal audit, correct? And we'll hear those results, not that I initiated it, but that your questions are what initiated
My
that.
questions is what initiated it. I went to you, I went to Nelson.
Yep.
And I actually have, you'll see in the emails where I was kind of like chastised for raising the issue. I then went to the city auditor, and it wasn't by Nelson that I was chastised. I went to the city auditor at that point, Margaret, and I said, Margaret, I just don't get this. You know, why would a school spend, or any public entities spend money this much on gift baskets or flowers or food because somebody was sick? You know, I just work in it different. I come from the federal environment. I work for 4 presidents of the United States. I would not spend $1 of city money on something like that, but I do understand that the school system is different.
Is that internal fund money taxpayer money?
No.
So it's not city money?
No, it's not city money. But when the taxpayer, I'll take me for instance, my son went to the school system, 2 of them, and I gave money for uniforms. Okay, well, my other half was a coach. So she would collect money from the parents to pay for uniforms. Well, prior to her, there was no form or mechanism to prove that that money was collected and deposited. So I cannot tell you that the money collected from parents went to the uniforms or to the athletic. No. If some of that is going towards food and gift baskets and flowers, that's not what the taxpayer or the parent gave you money for.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that, because when you first brought it to me, I was under the impression that it was actually taxpayer money. Either way, $42,000 does sound like a lot, and I think we'll hear more when we get the results of the audit.
I guess the one that sticks in my mind the most, and it's not that it's not right, was, and my staff can tell you, we got a request from the school to pay $10,000 to Steve Jamison. Okay, why shouldn't I pay $10,000 with no backup? The superintendent hadn't signed it. It came from the school, it's a lower level. And it's like, I'm supposed to just pay $10,000? Well, why would you use public money to pay $10,000 to donate to the Barbara Jamison? Well, Barbara Jamison, I knew her personally. She died, her husband set up a fund. Well, can't you submit some documentation? Can you show me where you collected that money and it was used for, that it's for this? Can you show me that? No. So as a finance director, whether it's for your school or for the city, how am I supposed to show the auditors that that was a legitimate expense, that you really collected it? That's the kind of things we're talking about here. We're not talking about shutting down the school. We're talking about just have the right support and documentation for things. So whether it's taxpayer money or not, you have a fiduciary responsibility to see that that money is spent for what it is. I can tell you, I wrote 2 $100 checks last January to the school for my son and my other half for lunch. I had to go back to the school 6 months later and say, when are you going to cash it? Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Bateman?
Sorry.
Mr. Fisher still has the floor, I believe, or I think next was Ms. Lucas Ross.
Right.
I just wanted to finish up one question.
Might as well just stay up there.
Sorry.
Should I get my coffee?
Get your coffee, yeah.
Yeah, good.
You go ahead while she goes.
Thank you, obviously, for any information. Under Statute 119, I'm going to request a public records request on those emails, please. I don't believe you have to go to your boss on that, so I'm making an official request.
I believe you need to go to the clerk's office for that, so.
Okay.
But yeah, we're entitled, it's public record.
Okay.
Ms. Lucas Ross.
I'll yield.
Boy A is actually next. I apologize.
No, that's
Going in
okay.
order, first come, first serve. No?
That's okay.
Okay. Mr. Zivkovic. You're coming.
One thing, you and I have spoken several times, and I've always asked, if you have anything, always bring it to me. And you've never brought me anything. So we're going to repeat that again. You have my email, my phone number.
I believe that at the audit committee, as we left, you said we need to talk more, and I said yes.
Correct.
I do
did.
not approach the governing board. My city manager may, or whatever, but I don't.
Okay. Well, I asked for information. If you have information you care about the school, please feel free to share it or give me recommendations. One of the things
I
we
will
talked
not
about.
share stuff directly with the governing board. If I'm going to share
One of
it
the things
with
we talked
anybody, it's
about-
going to be with the superintendent.
One of the things we talk about is processes, and you mentioned it yourself, and I agree that that's a big problem of why our miscommunication is happening. The one thing I want to touch on before I get back to that, and I'll do that later, I guess, in my comments, is the internal funds that you mentioned and your confusion with how schools operate. And one of the, as education for everybody here, and it's an education for me as well, one of the big difficulties we have as a system, and being a municipal charter system, is there is a lack of understanding between the city and the school administration and teachers. Because the city runs things in a certain way, and they have to run a city. The teachers are trying to run a school. And there are different ways that funds are requested and handled in both of those organizations. Because they're different, they're not necessarily wrong. Because they're different, there's not necessarily something bad going on. And we need to understand that. We need to stop using innuendo to sometimes make it seem like we have these huge problems in our school. In some cases, when we communicate through the school, ask the city, sometimes we're treated as a city department and we're told to do things. And other times when we ask for help, we're said, well, no, you're a charter school system. And sort of, we can't have it both ways. We either are or are not. And that's one of the problems with our communication. I've offered to the mayor, and we've discussed it briefly, and hopefully we'll continue, but we do need to improve our, we've tried to get, and I think we're still trying to get a meeting with the city council. Our communication does need to improve so that we can have a better symbiosis with the city, because right now it's been very difficult. And some of these things that are going on recently, I think would be best aired, as you said, through processes. So I don't have anything further for you, Ms. Bateman, unless you have something for me. And,
Okay.
go ahead.
I'm going to come back to you while we're on the top. Okay. Mr. Winstead and Ms. Lucas Ross.
Ms. Bateman, how long have you been in your position?
Almost 6 years.
Are you familiar with any prior internal audits?
Turn on his mic. His microphone.
You'd have to ask the city auditor. I think she did one.
So you're not familiar if there's ever been an audit before related to this?
My understanding is there hasn't been one in 7 years.
Okay. Are you familiar with the past practices prior to this administration?
If you're asking have I worked with Angela Pruitt and Lee Bush, I did. We didn't have these issues that I can think of with as much.
Let me understand something then. If you're saying we didn't have these issues, how are you concluding that if there was no audit done?
Because there has been an external audit. An audit is not a proof. I have worked very closely with the charter school as well as my staff. These issues of not getting purchase orders or signatures or backup and credit card purchases, I have that information. That's not internal funds. That is the public funds of the school.
Right now, I think this morning, we're talking about the internal funds, correct?
If
In
that's
an
what you're
internal
talking
audit?
about, that's not what you
Are we
asked
talking
me.
about an internal funds and internal audit here?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I think that's the question. We're talking about
My
internal funds.
understanding is there wasn't
and an internal audit that was requested by this board to have done. Have we received the information and reviewed this audit yet?
The internal audit, we
You know,
have
I
not.
don't need an audit to know. I'm the one that's being audited as well as the charter school. I know what issues are there. I don't need the audit.
As Mr.
And-
Sokovic said, it seems there seems to be a communications issue with your office and the direction on how, what things are to be
Well,
done
what
and
else do
which
I need to
way.
do other than
Maybe
sit
that needs
down
to be
with the
clarified.
staff and with Nelson and with Mrs. Treese, Brian Montag? What else do we need to do other than go down to that school and say, this is how we process things? We will keep going to the school to do that because we want it right. We
Well-
think that this is a reflection of the city as well as the charter school.
Well, I agree, it is a reflection.
It
And I
is.
think that the issues that were brought up here this morning related to this are something that all of us on the board are very interested in, completely. And given the opportunity to address any issues that would be out of line, we'll make a correction and do that. We haven't had the opportunity really to understand the information, digest the information, and come up with any recommendations. But it seems to me that there's been a lot of innuendo and accusations that are either unfounded or unsupported at this point. So until we are able to have the full address of the information, I think it's premature to be jumping to these conclusions that anything is out of character or irrational in the process. But I know, and I think I speak for the rest of the board, that if there is, it will be surely addressed.
The internal funds is a different story. I don't know about the innuendos. Like I started when I came up in public input. I don't know why this is about, I don't even know why the governing board is having this conversation. Today we were going to raise the issues about the audit findings in the CAFR. By law, I have to come to you once a year and present the CAFR, which I'm going to. And there's no big news in the CAFR. We're going to raise, Andrew's here, he's going to address the audit findings, the investments. What got me here was that the papers and others are saying that I'm the one responsible for not investing the funds correctly, and that's not true. I do invest the funds according to the charter, but the superintendent is responsible, according to the bylaws, for how it's invested. So how that led into my wife having to come to say this isn't a vendetta, I don't get it.
What percentage
But
would,
the
what's the
internal
percentage
audit that she's going to release has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, the issues. The
What
issues
percentage would you think at this point, based on your knowledge now, there is funds in the fund that there's been discussion on, some of that money should be invested differently for a higher rate of return, which I think we all would like to get as much money as we can for the school system.
Sure.
After you deduct the 5% reserves that we're required to hold, the $2 million approximately for
And
Kristen McCullough,
that's not true
and
statement.
the rest of the money, what percentage do
You're
you
not
think
required
are
to
not
have
invested
5%
correctly?
reserve.
Can we reserve this conversation for the agenda item? I apologize, but I'd rather keep this confined.
I think Margaret's here to speak about the audits, because
Let's,
The
Margaret,
only-
if you don't mind, can we wait? Yeah. Anything regarding the CAFR audit? I believe you brought up the internal audit, Ms. Bateman.
Right.
That's why we're talking about it now. I believe in your comments you did. So that's why it's coming up right now. I
All right.
don't want to talk about that anymore either because we have nothing in front of us. I'd rather reserve that for January or February when it comes out. Did you have any more comments? Okay. Ms. Lucas-Ross?
Yeah. And I have nothing for Ms. Bateman other than to say this is my 4th year on the board, and I want to thank you for your service. It's been great as long as I've been here. So I have 3 points that I want to make from the comments. First, to Mr. and Mrs. Pearson over there. Mr. Pearson, I've seen you showcased in the school before. You're a very extraordinary young man, and I'm going to tell you what. This young man right here made a comment that I wrote down, okay, where he said, this is a hurricane. The eye of the storm is right here. And I know in domestic abuse situations, that's exactly what it is. That becomes the eye of the storm. It becomes everything. And listening to that phone call you played actually brought tears to my eyes. I'm probably going to start crying again. And I so wish that did not have to be publicly heard. I am so sorry that the two of you have to go through that. As far as the issue with your father on campus, I would hope there are legal documents that govern the school's ability to allow him or disallow him on campus. And I would hope that Mr. Buzztree has looked at those documents, and if not, that he does to determine what the appropriate action is. So that's my comment on that. And again, I'm just sorry that you're going through that. Madam Mayor, I don't know if you're still here.
She is, you can't see her behind the screen.
Oh, okay, I can't see you. There's your hand. Thank you for coming here. Again, as I said, this has been my 4th year serving on this board as a parent representative. It's the first time, I believe, we've had the mayor or a city council member attend the meeting. I think that's a positive thing. I know that as I've sat on this board, I've heard this board many times talk about a desire to work more closely with the city in a variety of things. As you stated last night, you know, the charter school system uses some of the city personnel for things and then some of our own, and I do think that sometimes there ends up being confusion about that. When we talk about policies and procedures, there are tons of them. I decided to bring a couple here. These are our Neola policies. We didn't have these when I started. Our policies were shorter. They fit more in a binder like this. And Mr. Stevenson, I think some of the issues that we're having are because this board had tasked the former superintendent, Dr. Pruitt, to begin a couple of things, large projects on behalf of the charter school system. One, to take what was operating as 4 independent schools and to make them work together as one cohesive charter school system. That is what started this, which was the second big project. That was barely begun, very barely begun, when Mr. Stevenson began. As a matter of fact, I think at the point where he was hired, where we hired him, as far as we had gotten, or we hired the guy to start the Neola policies, and also we had submitted a request to get accreditation. And it was Mr. Stevenson who had to see all that through. These are not small projects. And this big document, I still have my tabs in here. The board spent 7, 8 meetings, special workshops, going through these page by page. It was excruciating. And we completed it last spring, I think. So now the next step is to take these and condense it down into something more, some policy that's a lot easier to understand than this. At the same time, we had our accreditation, which was finally approved over the summer. We were accredited. We are now one cohesive school, and we are trying to operate as one cohesive school. This is a lot of change. It's a lot of change, and it requires, I think, a lot of changes, which is some of what we're seeing here. I'm not saying it's all of it, but I think it's some of it. Some of this is because we are scratching into, under the surface of things to trying to improve the school. And I look forward, as we progress, to working with the city on a lot of this. The final thing I want to say is that I attended that meeting last night, not in support of Mr. Stevenson, but in support of this charter school system that I love. I have had a child in every school except for Krista McAuliffe. I have had nothing but exceptional experiences. My children are so well educated. I am thankful every day to have been a part of this school. My husband was one of the people who waited in line overnight a couple of years ago to get our first child into the school so we could do it. And I'll never regret it. It was worth it all. So that's why I went, to support the school system. And when I showed up and I saw literally hundreds of parents and students and administrators and teachers sitting out there, it was standing room only. There was a line outside that went down to the Parks and Recs office for people waiting to get in here, and the overwhelming majority of them were in support of the charter school system. Not an individual, but the charter school system. And that should have been the news story. It should have been, look at these hundreds of people who come here in support of a school that they love. And instead, the news story was fisticuffs. And I am terribly embarrassed about that. And that's all I want to say about that.
Okay, Mr. Fisher, did you have anything else to say, or is your light still on from before?
No, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson? Okay. Ms. Boyer?
I just wanted to, I echo everything that the board has said so far. I watched the meeting on TV last night. I was not present. And when the agenda item finally came up that Ms. Sawicki addressed, I think initially after the public comment, her comments were positive, I think, towards the charter school system, and just saying that, she was just asking questions. And I guess my concern was, I know she later in the night, she referred to our August 9th meeting and not happy with the way that we had responded in the meeting. I guess I feel personally, everybody that's on this board is here because they want to be here. This is not a salaried position. We do this strictly on a volunteer basis. And it's a lot of work that we put into it. Do we always get it right? No. It's part of a learning process. There's a lot of things that have happened in a short period of time that we're all trying to come to grips with. The other statement that the mayor had made, I think she was upset because she was able to ask questions. I think we were upset because none of those questions were ever addressed to us. I guess it was put in the form of a public records, and at the time, that's when I had asked Mr. Bustry, well, what should the process be? What should, how should we be informed if there are issues that we need to be addressing? How do we find out about it? And, we were told at the time what the chain of command should be and so on. Going forward, we are a municipal charter school system. We very much need the city's assistance to continue to make progress. A big thing that's been looming over us for a long period of time is the lease agreement. We have not had any kind of clarification in terms of the lease agreement, which then impacts our financial situation. Are we setting aside monies to pay for everything that's falling apart in the schools? The schools are over 10 years old. Is that money that we are supposed to be responsible for? We need clarification on that. That's something that was brought up, almost a year ago, addressed to council. We've never heard of that since. We hear about these kind of things, which again has become, I feel, a personality clash. The other question was asked, did the board know that Mr. Stevenson was going to go to the media? I personally did not know anything about that. I am regretful of that because I think it's taken us off the path that we need to be going on. And I think that because of that, there's a lot, it stirred up a lot of emotion that we could have put to a more positive use. And I would like to see that going forward. I mean, we have more than 3,200 students, 400 plus staff that are depending on us, on all of us, to get the right education for their students. And I don't know the best way to finally put aside differences between Mr. Stevenson and the mayor. I didn't see anything last night other than when Ms. Sawicki was talking about Mr. Stevenson. You could see she had just a sour taste in her mouth. So going forward, we need to find a way to get this resolved and put aside and get back on track in terms of what we're supposed to be doing for our students, which is finding the best financial path for us. If we've made some mistakes in terms of the audit, at the time we didn't have the audit. I know it was mentioned last night that apparently we got it in October. This is, we saw it on an email when we always get it, which is 5 days before our meeting. We got, it's very difficult to try to see an audit report, at least for me, on an email. We were going to discuss it today. So it would have been nice to have the opportunity to find out the results first, instead of, if you weren't tuning into the meeting last night, then we had no clue to what was going on. I think all of us, our heart is in the right place. I think we just need, in terms of process and communication with the city, and also cooperation from the city. When we have different things that we're being charged for, hours that Mr. Bustry spends with us, and what's the accountability there? We are supposed to be accountable to the city, but the city should have some measure of responsibility to be accountable to us. If we're being charged for certain things, that we're not necessarily getting the quality of what we should be getting. So that's where our focus needs to be. This other thing of personality issues and who said what and this email and that email, I am, it is overwhelming. It just sucks the life out of the positive things that we need to be doing going forward. We've got a big responsibility to these kids. We owe it to them to get our act together and to behave like adults, all of us, and keep focusing on the prize, which is the stellar education that we provide for our students at the charter school system. That's what I have.
Mr. Zivkovic.
Nicely said. Thank you. This has been a learning experience being on this board. I'm not even sure how many years I've been on it, but I think if you've been here 4, I think I've been more than that. So it's maybe too many. I'm not sure. One of the things that I've learned is words matter. And what we say up here sometimes gets magnified, taken out of context. And I'll get back to that in a second, because as mayor, I think words matter more. There are several things I want to address. And the personality issue, a few years ago, I met with one of our principals at the schools, and I asked, what do we need to do? Because I heard some rumblings about morale and things like that. She said, well, there's a core group of teachers I think I need to let go. I said, well, go ahead. Now, I'm a former Marine, I'm a business owner, so if we've got a problem, we try to take care of it. And the comment I got back was, well, there's going to be political outflow of a backlash. And I was naive enough to say, come on, we're doing what's right for the kids, right? We need to improve something. We need to get rid of these folks so we can move forward. And it didn't happen. Last year, after it did happen, we had somebody stand up and do what was right for the children. And now we have political backlash. And I'm proven to be very naive in thinking that that wouldn't happen, that we would do what's right for the children without consequences. And unfortunately, here we are dealing with this mess. What I'd like to do is, as Odette said, get away from the personalities. And let's move forward on what we have, the business at hand. Use the processes that we have, the policies that are in place, and the procedures to air all these items through the proper channels. If there are questions and concerns about our budget, bring it to the board. We'd love to hear it directly. We have emails and addresses and phone numbers. You knock on my door, however you'd like to get to me. There is a chain of command. And if I don't think a public records request is necessary. If we're appointed by the city council, that means the city council says, hey, you guys run this for us, okay? We have a lot to do. We have a lot of important things. This is one thing that is important, but you guys, we entrust you, and we appoint you to take care of this. And my understanding would be that if they had questions in the city council and they didn't know what was going on or they were concerned with something, they would then come to us and say, hey, we appointed you guys to take care of this. What's going on? That has not happened. No one has asked me from the city council or the mayor on what's going on. No one has brought any issues to my attention. But yet, I'm told there are these problems. And it's very frustrating because, as I mentioned last night, and I too was not there to support anybody. I asked last night for the chain of command to be followed so that we can have processes and use those processes properly. Processes properly. One thing I want to make a sidebar. I don't think I'm going to let Oasis kids talk anymore because they speak much better than I do. And thank you all for speaking. I just want to touch it was alluded to, and I agree that hearing that recording and my heart goes out to the Pearson family, and I can't imagine what it must be like. It's frustrating for us. The other thing in this society of we need everything fixed now, we don't hear about anything. This is the first I'm hearing from you, Mrs. Pearson. If there's something we can do, we need to reach out. And because we're a board, we can't do anything individually. So I can't stand up and say, hey, that's no good, you do this. We have to agree as a board. So it's a slow process and it's frustrating. So I apologize for that. And in terms of, I'm sure we're gonna get more information in terms of the trespass notice. Do we have the correct notice? Do we not? And all that kind of stuff. And those are things that hopefully we can take care of, not in a public setting. I'm going to wait for some of these things on the audit portion. And the young lady, and I'm sorry I missed your name, but thank you very much for saying you're shocked that adults are acting this way. Because sadly, I'm shocked often as well, and we should be better. We should do better. We should understand that we're supposed to be role models and leaders and handle ourselves better. And hopefully we can hold up our end of the bargain for you moving forward. In the end, I just want to reiterate our call as a board to meet with the city council, to work with the city council, to work with the accounting office in any way we can to try to correct the communication problems that we have between the city and the charter school system. We have a great asset here. As Mr. Wilson said last evening, families do move into the area to go to our school system. We are an asset, an economic and community asset for the city. We should be used as such, and we should try to flourish. We've got the Northwest Cape growing, and the city council knows better than I do. We've got incoming population we're going to have to school those children. It'd be great if we could, as a charter school system, do that for them. Hopefully we can get together with the council soon and maybe make some subcommittees to handle some of these issues and with the budget, if there are issues in the budget. Again, I was in that audit meeting and no concerns were brought up in the audit meeting and that we'll hear about. So when I saw it on the agenda, I was taken aback because they weren't brought up. And I'll just finish how I started. Please let's understand that our words matter, and intended or not, they have consequences, and that's all.
Okay, is that Mr. Winstead or Ms. Lucas-Ross?
I just wanted to follow up in the fact, in looking at this, I myself also have a couple children who have been in the system. One is currently still in the system. And the tenure of some of my associates on the board has been much longer. I'm just finishing up my first year, so some of this is newer to me than the others. What I've seen over this past year has actually been amazing. An amazing school system, amazing accomplishments. And when I really look at all of the good things that should be in the media about this system and about our students, because we have amazing students. It's unbelievable. If you have had the opportunity to be around other school systems, other high schools, middle schools, and elementaries, and you compare them to the system we have here, it is shocking. It really is. We're also in a situation where we've been growing amazingly. We have waiting lists for people to come in to the school system. So for us to publicly be involved in some of the details that should never rise to the level of news coverage is disappointing, because the things that really should be in the news should be these accomplishments of these amazing students and the faculty and staff and administration that we have here. So, to echo what we've already heard, I know things tend, and as Mr. Zakovic said, words have meanings, and especially if you're in a position of authority and people are listening to you, especially the news media, we do need to have an extra level of responsibility on what we say and how we say it, and also to use good discretion in what we bring forward at that type of level. I agree with the rest of the board that if there are issues, we should be the first place that those issues are brought to, not the media. And that's whether externally or internally, and have the option to actually address those things before they become a public issue that outweighs or outshines or is visibility the incredible things that the school system's actually doing. So I would encourage all of us, especially as it relates to the city relationship, that we work more closely together, figure out how to get that path done and do it. That is our responsibility, both here on the board and with the city. So the media should be seeing predominantly the great things that are happening, and granted, not that if there are issues that need to be addressed that are never addressed, or things that are not addressed, then that could be addressed in the media. But right now, I would say that with the list of accomplishments that our students and our schools have been able to do, that should far outweigh anything that we've seen brought before the recent communications. Thank you.
Thank you. If nobody else has comment, I'll just get to mine. I have quite a list here. You got something? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Donaldson.
I don't know which button to push.
That's fine.
Push my speaker.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I want to thank the kids, because that's the epitome of civic activism, and I wish more kids were here speaking on your behalf. Pro or con, it doesn't matter, that you pay attention to this is what we're sending you to school for you to do what's been taught to you and activate those energies in mind. And I hope it doesn't stop here at the board meeting. I hope it continues in your everyday life and when you graduate from college and go on from that. That's a success story. That's what Oasis Charter School System is all about. And I've seen it. I think I'm probably the old timer here, almost 9 years on the board. So, we've seen it grow. We've gone through growing pains. We're still going through growing pains. I mean, none of us trained. We didn't take, Charter School Board Class 101. We're learning as we go. And math was not my forte. So when it comes to looking at budgets, I trust what's being presented from all the city staff, from the charter school staff. Do I understand it all? No, but I get the bottom line. So, you know, as far as that goes, it's just communication. We can only vote on what we're hearing in front of us, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether we find out later that it was incorrect. The city goes, everybody goes through that. I mean, your own family politics go through that. You know, well, gee, we thought it was this way, it should have been that way. I hope we all can move forward because we have one goal, and that's the kids and that's success. And I want to say that our graduation is the top in Lee County. I want to say that our test scores are the top in Lee County. I want to say our volunteerism and our activism, our community service, and raising funds for our own people in Cape Coral is the top in Lee County. State awards we bring in, national awards we bring in, and we've always national recognition for being one of the top high schools. So we must be doing something right in spite of all the negativity going on there. We need to focus on that positivity. We need to resolve our differences in a peaceful manner, because this is what we want to teach children, not to go at each other's throats, but to do it in a peaceful, kind, loving, understanding manner. And I don't think any of us are against that. We get passionate, I get that. So we speak sometimes a little too passionate. But if you take a breath, count to 10, think things through, sleep on it, then come back and discuss it, sometimes you have a new look on life. So I agree with everything that's up here. I agree with the kids, one side or the other side. Whatever is said, we're all passionate, and we are all about the children. You know, and that's been my philosophy while I've been on this board. If it's good for the kids, I raise my hand, go for it. You know, because that's the bottom line, is good education for our students today. And we rock. You know, we really do blow away Lee County as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a public school teacher that had to be convinced about charter schools when I first moved to Cape Coral. Well, municipal charter schools are wonderful, you know. So it's inexperience, it's experience, it's all of us coming from different walks of life and sharing what we know to make the system move forward. So on the positive note, you do a great job. Thank you to the staff, thank you to the students, thank you to the parents, and all the people involved in the school system to make it successful. A lot of hours, a lot of time, and a lot of love have gone into this.
Mr. Zivkovic.
I'm sorry to chime back in. One other point I just wanted to address, and that it's been brought, and sometimes it might seem like inaction. If something is brought in front of us here as a board, either through public comment or an item, and sometimes if the result is not what you expect, that doesn't mean we haven't thought about it or it hasn't been addressed. It just means that maybe we decided to go another route. As the young lady mentioned, there are 90% of the students that seem to be happy. And we have to look at the needs and wants of the whole school body, not just one family or one situation. And those decisions, again, in today it's hard to understand sometimes because everyone's, well, just make them happy, just go take the easy way out. And I support our staff that doesn't take the easy way out, and they make hard decisions. And they say to our students that, no, that's not correct. Because in today's day and age, we have too many people that are too quick to appease and not stand up for what's right. So please understand, if we don't agree with you, it doesn't mean we're not doing our job.
Okay. I just want to correct something that was said earlier. We have had council members at meetings before. Councilmember Leone, Councilmember Erberg is here now. We've had Councilmember Stout. I think this is probably the first time we've had one speak, Councilmember or Mayor, but we've had people in the past. There have been some things said that were concerning to me that I had not heard before. So I don't know that we want to air all this publicly, but for example, a student being punished for speaking out or saying he's going to speak out, that concerns me if it's accurate. And I would ask you, Mr. Stevenson, to look into that, please. When it comes to the specific situation with the Pearson family, I don't know how we can clarify that, clear it up, but it seems like I wrote down the exact quote, Mr. Stevenson allowed a man with 2 guns on campus, and I don't think that's completely accurate. I know that at one point he had 2 guns, but to imply that Mr. Stevenson opened the door and said, come on in, to a man with 2 guns is not accurate. And I understand you have concerns for your safety, and they're valid. There's a court order. I get it. And I think we do have issues with how we deal with those. Is this the first time we've ever had a court order like that, or have we had them in the past? Mr. Buzztree or Mr. Stevenson? Okay. We are a baby when it comes to a school system. We're 10 years old. And when you, I mean, okay, maybe we're like a teenager. We have growing pains. This is the first time we've ever dealt with this. Won't be the last, because unfortunately these things happen. But I think we could do better in the future. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Mr. Stevenson, I want to ask you, is it true that Mr. Berner doesn't have educator or leadership credentials? And can you comment on that?
In the state of Florida, to be a dean, you do not have to have educator credentials, if you will.
Okay.
We're talking about an educational leadership degree. That position, the person that held that position before also did not have that same degree, and that person was there several years. Mr. Berner does have a ROTC, and I'm not sure the component of that, but it's an ROTC allowing him to teach students in the ROTC component. But our dean position, even according to the way we have it listed through the city, does not require an educational leadership degree.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. As for the memo on Schoology, I think, or an email telling people to come, is that true, did you send something out asking people to come to the meeting last night?
There was an email that I sent to staff only. I didn't contact any parents. I did place on my own personal Facebook a informational email which basically read along the lines of, there is an important meeting tomorrow. It's part of my duty to provide information to you, to those in the system, that there will be a meeting. I suggested that if people would like to come, they could. I suggested that if people would like to watch on television, they could. I also suggested that they could find out today what happened, in other words, from the meeting last night. I asked specifically for no one to write any letter of support. It was not whether or not the system was going to be still here or not whatsoever, but as many people, I think the agenda item was placed on a Thursday or Friday, and we didn't know, with it just saying Charter School Authority and CAFR audit, we didn't know what the context was. So I did specifically in the email to make it clear that there would be no collusion or me trying to get a big group here, was I said, I used the term to act like Switzerland and remain neutral. There's no argument. We're not arguing against the city or for the city, but we just want information. Part of my task, we have about 10,000 people that are stakeholders within our system, and my fear is that if I did not inform them that this meeting was happening, if something in fact did take place that was big, I wouldn't be doing my duties with the people that I have to make sure that I'm informing. In other words, a big decision may or may not have been made. I had no idea what it was about. Nobody told me about it other than I found out that it was on the agenda. So it was very clear in the email that I sent out in terms of that, and I will provide it to the board so that you can see. But I think saying remain like Switzerland, be neutral, do not write any letters. I didn't seek anybody to come for me personally whatsoever. It was just an informational, hey, this is happening, but don't know what the context is. So now after that point, as you know, things can be twisted, words can be said, etc. But the message that I gave to everybody was that. So in terms of what my knowledge is about any other, I can't speak to that. So
okay.
Don't have it. Yeah. Not saying it's not true. I just don't know. If there was nothing from my office to do that.
Thank you. The big question here is, how are we going to move forward? I think we were asked that. My part is, as the council member and the board member, to report back to council. So I think I can do a better job. I think every month I should be reporting on these meetings to council. Last night, a couple of my colleagues were talking about the Neola policies, and I don't think they were aware that we had updated them and spent hours upon hours this past year doing that. And they hadn't been updated since 2008, right? Is that correct, 2008? So council needs to know these things. They need to know what we're doing. Otherwise, it's just them and us. So I'm going to do a better job. I'm going to report back every month with details from what we're doing here. There are clearly issues between the bylaws and the charter. The charter says city staff invests. The bylaws say the superintendent invests. That's confusing, and it's a clear conflict to me. That needs to be addressed. So yesterday, Last night at the council meeting, the mayor made a motion to have city staff put together best practices for the charter schools when it comes to finance and operations. And I seconded that because I think we could use the help. Clearly, we're having issues. I don't see that as a takeover since, as someone mentioned already, we are a municipal charter school system. Hopefully this board is not in jeopardy. I think that we all, well, I can't speak for me. I think all of you here are doing a great job, and I thank you for volunteering your time and energy for the students. Let's see. Was I aware that Mr. Stevenson went to the media? I was aware when Dave Elias called me for comment, and I defended the mayor and said that she didn't know it was going to cost however much money, $800,000 for the records request. As for the joint meeting, I think you're all aware we could not find a date that everyone could be there because there's probably maybe 20 people that actually need to be there, and getting 20 people in a room and making sure that room is available has been quite difficult, especially with the holidays. So my hope is that at some point in January we'll have a joint meeting, and hopefully it will be productive and we'll work through these issues that we have. So please be on the lookout and please try to make whatever date work. I know I'll be moving stuff around in my schedule. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have. Oh, there's one more light on. Ms. Jackson, do you have something? Okay, go ahead.
I sat here this whole time because I didn't really want to have more public conversation about Mr. Pearson and your mom. We've known each other for a very long time. But what you have put out there on the television and to the world is that we're running an unsafe campus. And I don't believe that to be true. So I want to make sure that I have more specific questions, and we can handle those as a smaller group, I guess, later, because it doesn't have to be televised. But I know that we have to follow the rules of Lee County and the Sheriff's Department, and so if somebody comes to us and wants to enroll their son in our school, meaning your brother, we're not allowed to tell them no. And my other question is, when he was in the office and you walked in the office, were you scheduled to be there for something?
Would you like me to respond to these questions?
If you don't mind.
Is the board okay with allowing Mr. Pearson to come up because public comment is over?
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
I apologize.
We can set a meeting, but we've got it all out there in the public now. It's on TV. I just wanted to make sure that it was out there that we're not running an unsafe campus. So, and only other thing I kind of wanted to comment on while we're still up here, because we're going to lose everybody once we start moving down this, is I wanted to clarify how the school gets its money and what money it uses for what. In a very short order, we don't get a lot of city money, and we pay for all of our city services. So you may have caught that a little bit along the way, that when Mr. Buzztree is here at our meeting, we are billed for Mr. Buzztree to be here. And that's fine, but I just want the people out there to know that we're paying the city for those services. They're not gifted to us, and we're paying with our money that we get from the state of Florida to educate the children. And we don't get enough, and we don't get any of the Lee County tax money. And so just kind of filling everybody in that, the city has just helped us recently, just a little bit, and that was fantastic. But other than that, we pay for all of our city services. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. The next agenda item is the chair report. I think everything that I would have said, I have already said at this point. So next, I'm sorry, I skipped over.
You skipped right over?
Yeah. I've got nothing, so you go ahead, Nelson.
Good morning, Board. I just wanted to let you know a couple of short things here. I know it's going to be a long meeting. First of all, when it relates to security, we did, and you'll hear today, we're going to do a budget amendment based on it, but we have ordered radios for all of our administrators. This is also a first time in our system's history. I'd love to go more into security plan details, but clearly I can in a public forum, but I want to let you know that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that we have students to be safe and secure at our school. I did want to mention also the addition of the SRO this year, which was not in place. And again, I don't want to talk about the numbers we have on our campus for security reasons, but we did increase our City of Cape Coral Police Department footprint on our school campuses. The second thing, I'm not going to take the thunder of this, but the ROTC did such a wonderful job the other day. They had their accreditation, if you will, and I'm going to let Ms. Treese handle that. I'm sure she's going to be talking about it. But I just got to sit in there, and you talk about students that can commit and do well and perform under pressure. I felt like I was seeing the future leaders of my replacements. You know, as they always say, kids are scary. They're our replacements, and I see them because I see every one of those kids have those capacities to just take charge and just were amazing. The insurance piece, I do have some paperwork that I can provide you all. This is a follow-up to a parent that had a request at the last meeting about sports insurance. Although we don't offer exactly the same that Lee Schools does, we do have a program where parents can get the insurance. The onus is it's a little bit more of a lengthy process. I have a packet in hand that I can make copies for you. We want, as we get a more robust sports program, and we've got some great announcements about sports that will be coming in the future, some things that we're adding that, again, I won't let out yet until we've got them committed fully, but we will need those kind of resources, and so I want to assure you that we're looking at every other option that parents might have, but there is a plan, and we do have it, and I will submit to you so that we have it. They are also notified. There's notifications made on boards, on emails, things like that before the practices and things like that begin. And I've talked to Mr. Montag, and he goes through a FHSAA, the Florida High School Athletic Association, requires you to do certain things even before you practice and all those kind of things. So he's committed to excellence and continuing to do those things. And after a conversation with him, I'm confident that those are happening. But I did want to ask if there's any questions specific to that other than there is the coverage, the details of which I'm not an expert in, but that's available and I will provide to you. Is there any?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so we do have coverage through the FHSAA?
It's not through the FHSAA. I'm not sure what organization. I'm sorry, I have it sitting over. It's an organization that we have, but it's a pack that we provide parents that they can purchase the insurance. So it's different than what Lee County does, but it's the same type.
So for a parent that doesn't have insurance for their child, they have to purchase insurance?
Yes.
Any idea what the cost of this is?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Because in Lee County, nobody has to purchase insurance, correct?
I don't know if that's true. We'll find out.
Good morning, Brian Monte, Voices High School. The cost that you had asked about, it depends upon the parents and family's income. There are plans as low as $10 to $15.
Okay.
Some families may buy into the full, I have the notes right here.
I just want to get an idea. It should be affordable for our families so their
yeah.
students can play or join our athletic programs without having
Absolutely.
to take out a loan. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I can just add that if we ever get to the situation, and we'll work with the boosters, if we ever get to a situation where a parent cannot pay, I'm very confident that we'll have people that'll step up to the plate. So I don't anticipate that any student will never be able to play due to lack of insurance.
One of the other things, Mr. Montag, I'd like to make sure that happens is that we need to either do a better job, or maybe we are doing the job and it's the other end, but we want to make sure that the parents have all the information they need prior to tryouts, because in some cases with coaches, and rightfully so, they have a certain tryout window, and if the student misses it, well, too bad. And we don't want the insurance thing to come up and prevent that child from trying out because they didn't know about it prior to. So if we can communicate that effectively so parents know and they have their physicals and their insurance, everything in line so their kids don't miss those dates, that would be helpful to them.
Right, and as of to date, it is posted to our website. There's a tab that says to become a student athlete, and that information is in there with a link to the Florida Kid Care program. Okay. It is listed on the cover letter to all the physicals that are hanging up in our middle school and high school offices. On June 2nd, we had a physical night where I invited all the coaches to come out, talk about their upcoming summer programs, their upcoming seasons, and a representative from the Florida Kid Care program was there to answer any and all the questions that the parents may have had.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
The last thing that I wanted to do is just talk a little bit, maybe 2 minutes. Again, we have a long meeting, but I wanted to talk about the accomplishments of the last 2 years and the pride that I have in our system in terms of reminding the public that we have completed our Neola policies first round, that we have received our advanced ed accreditation for the first time in our 12-year system history. And I want to remind folks that that is 4 experts coming in and spending 3 days literally going through documents all day, interviewing staff, stakeholders, students, governing board members, myself, administrators. So we are very, very proud of that. We also did a $450,000 infrastructure update, which was needed, and we redesigned our website and on and on and on. So it's been a long going. What I can tell you is that in life sometimes there's passion that you have and understand that earning 2 master's degrees and almost completing a doctorate in public administration, my bent is always to be passionate about always continuously improving. And so what I'll tell you is looking back at last night and looking back at what I allowed to happen, and I will say I allowed it to happen, I just want to apologize to the community because sometimes passion does override. And I do want to remind myself on occasion and maybe the community that the passion is only because it's about the kids.